They want legal acceptance that you wanted to, you know that it is. Boker Tov, good morning, welcome, and we'll start, of course, with our bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So,
Amen.
Thank you. Of course, the portion that we're in is BeHa'alot'cha, and this is what I have here for now.
I think we're on 17.
You mean starting 17?
Well, we're certainly in the second,
Ooh,
the
I
Levi.
think you got 10 here. Oh, verse 17 maybe?
Yeah.
Chapter 11?
We're in the second Aliyah. I guess it's chapter 8.
Oh, okay. And verse 17. That's 10.
I'm trying to look if we might be on 16. Maybe we should start the beginning of chapter of that Aliyah verse 15.
Okay, and that, okay, wow. All right. Let me see what's going on here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm on 9 right now, and we'll go to 8. 8:17, you said? That makes yes.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Wait a second, unless, not sure. Maybe this looks a little familiar.
It starts with a candle 11.
Yeah, no, that's the whole Parsha, Harlan. Okay, so you started BeHa'alot'cha, but we did start it, I believe, on Sunday. So, okay, here's the Sheni portion, which is verse 15.
Yeah.
And
if y'all think that this is something we've done, you'll let us know. But
yeah, because this is the one where it says you shall cause the Levites to stand before Aaron and before his sons, and you shall wave them as a wave offering to the Lord. Remember, you asked.
No. That's not what it says on verse 15.
No, that's verse 13.
Verse 13 we did, yes.
Okay, so we'll start with 15 then.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so we've just talked about the installation of the Levites in their Levitical duties and the unique position they hold amongst the children of Israel. And after all of this, Yavohu HaLeviim, the Levites may come la'avod et ohel moed, to serve, to give service in the tent of meeting. V'tiharta otam, you shall purify them. V'heinafta otam knufa, and you shall wave them as a wave offering. And there's nothing in the Rashi here.
Right.
And we were discussing yesterday, of course this wasn't recorded, what exactly happened. And without sort of doing research on this, which I feel I would need to do to exactly what happened, is that they would stretch out their hands, and you said this was in front of that the Israelites would do this, and that the Israelites would put their hands underneath the Levites' hands and cause them to go up and down and north, south, east, and west with their hands. And I could be totally wrong, but on the other hand,
you're right. You're right.
You did some research, Harlan?
Yeah, that's the way that's in the Torah. You're right.
Well, it doesn't say it explicitly in the Torah here, but
Rashi will tell you that's the way it is. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I didn't see the Rashi, but great.
There is no Rashi for that.
Okay. All right. So the point about this is that hands, this is a very important metaphor, that hands have to do with our control over this world. They are a metaphor for control. And putting the hands of the Levites in the hands of the Israelites would symbolize, in some senses, that the Levites were there to serve, that their hands and by extension their lives were dedicated to the service of the Israelites, and obviously therefore to the tent of meeting and to serve the Kohanim. So they were
Mhm.
representing the Israelites in that particular way. And we're going to see something. Yes.
I
something
think
interesting.
the Lord said the Levites were consecrated over the firstborn.
We're
In other
about
words,
to,
I consecrate the Levites over the firstborn. So I
right.
don't know.
We're gonna get no. That's the very next verse we're going to do. Okay, so you're absolutely right. All right. So he says, "Ki nitunim heim ha'ali," because they are altogether given to me. This is God speaking. Mitoch bnei Israel, from the midst of the children of Israel, tachat, in the place of pitrat kol rechem bechor, in place of the firstborn, those who open the womb. In other words, all males who opened the womb, the firstborn males, kol mibnei Yisrael, all of the children of Israel, lakachti otam li, I have taken them to myself. So
Because of the he killed the firstborn of the Egyptians.
correct, correct. So initially, you understand, and we can do another verse regarding this, that initially, who would have served as the Levites?
The firstborn.
Correct. The firstborn of every Israelite family would have served as a Levite. They would have,
Right.
every family would have dedicated their firstborn son. And by the way, and because it says open the womb, if they had a girl first and a son second, that son would not be serving in that place.
Oh,
It
I
was
didn't know.
only a firstborn male, meaning, and opening the womb, meaning the very firstborn. And so, halachically, there are all kinds of questions regarding the redemption of the firstborn, which we still practice today, and whether or not. So it's clear that if a girl is born first of this woman, then she does not have to dedicate her next born if it is a son.
Just out of curiosity, what about a cesarean in that case?
Correct. So that is a halachic question. That is a valid halachic question because it is not born through the womb, okay, or at least in a natural birth. So I would actually have to go back. I'm sure I've read the answer somewhere, but I have not. And there's also another issue. What if there is a miscarriage?
Miscarriage.
Okay, and my understanding is it depends on how far the fetus is developed in the miscarriage. Again, and these are questions that halachists have to ponder and clarify and see if how they can best answer them. At any rate, we do have a Rashi here, nitunim nitunim. So Rashi, of course, is commenting on this interesting expression of doubling up nitunim. So he says nitunim leMoshe. This is interesting, right? Nitunim leMasa. Forgive me. This is with an aleph. If it had been a hey, then it would have been Moshe. But it's with an aleph. So nitunim leMasa. They're given for the porterage tasks, carrying the tabernacle, and nitunim lashir. They also were their service is they were given over to do the singing, the accompaniment, the musical accompaniment that took place in the temple. And then pitrat, he says, is petichat. So he translates this word pitrat, which is not a common word, and he says opening. That's what it has to do. That opens the womb.
Yeah, we might have done those, but we haven't done the rest. So
Okay, all right.
it was okay to have that review.
Well, you said 17, and here we are.
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Okay, my question is, why did God chose the Levites? Was it because they? I don't know. Maybe it's too soon, but he hasn't explained why he chose the Levites. Maybe it's because of Cohen, whatever his name is, went against Moses, and the Levites stood with Moses. I don't know if that's right.
Okay, so the simple reason is this, and I believe it may even be correct. It has to do with the fact that the tribe of Levi were the only tribe who did not worship the golden calf.
Okay.
So because they
That's
had,
what I wanna know.
yeah, so because they were so loyal in that particular moment, they were rewarded in this way. And that's why the firstborn lost that privilege, because they had participated, the other tribes had participated in some way or another in the worship of the golden calf. So that's why the Levites, this was plan B. This was plan B. So you're thinking of Korach, and that is going to come up in a few weeks as one of the parshiot in the book of Numbers. And you're right, Korach was but Korach himself was a Levite. And we have a situation where Korach as a Levite isn't happy enough with that. He wants to also be a priest. So, but I don't want to anticipate too much.
Now we have things to do now.
We do.
We'll get to that later.
Yes, another time. So here we go. Kili, here's the explanation. Kili chol bachor bivnei Israel. So we need to explain why initially the firstborn would have served in the position of the Levites, right? For to me is every firstborn amongst the children of Israel, ba'adam uva behema, whether human or cattle, men, people or cattle. And here we go. B'yom hakoti chol bachor be'eretz Mitzrayim. On the day that I smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, ikdashti otam li. At that point, I separated out, I sanctified them, that is the firstborn, to me. In other words, that's what gave God the right to take the firstborn, because the Israelites never would have been freed from servitude had God not brought about that 10th plague. Here we go, some Rashi. Ki li chol bechor, for to me is every firstborn. Sheli hayu abechorot bekav hadin. Okay, and because the firstborn males would have been mine, bekav hadin, by right, in justice, right? Higanti alehem, because I protected them, bein bechorei Mitzrayim, between the firstborn of Egypt, velakachti, and I took otam, them, li, to myself, ad sheta'u, here it is, Harlan, very clearly in the Rashi, ad sheta'u be'egel, until they made a mistake, they erred regarding the golden calf. And so now, va'ikach et haleviim, and so now I will take the Levites. Okay, so there we are.
Yeah.
Ve'ekach et haleviim, and I am taking the Levites, tachat kol bachor bivnei Israel, in the place of every firstborn male amongst the children of Israel.
No Rashi there.
No, he's comfortable that there's nothing that needs splaining. Ve'etna et haleviim, and I have placed the Levites, netunim laharon ulevanav, they are given to Aaron and his offspring, mitoch b'nei Israel, from the midst of the children of Israel, la'avod et avodat b'nei Israel, to perform the service of the children of Israel, ba'ohel moed, in the tent of meeting, u'lechaper al b'nei Israel, and to serve as an atonement for the children of Israel, v'lo yeh b'nei Israel negev, so that amongst the children of Israel there will be no plague, begeshet b'nei Israel, when the children of Israel draw near El HaKodesh, to the sanctuary. So it's part of the respect of the sanctuary, of the area of the sanctuary, is exactly the specific, in details, the various ways one is supposed to behave in that particular space. And I was thinking, as I was telling you this, how apparently, for example, when you go see the monarch of England, the Queen these days, right? They tell you how many steps you're supposed to take, how far away you're supposed to stand, etc., etc. And I'm sure that while they would not punish you if you were disrespectful, I don't think they would. I'm sure at one time you might have paid with your life had you been disrespectful. I'm thinking, for example, of the poor soldier in Korea, North Korea, who fell asleep during one of the speeches that the dictator was giving. So let's see what we have. Right, here we go. Ve'etna v'gomer. So we have this, and I have given, or I will give. But I believe it is I have given. Chamesh pa'amim ne'emar b'nei Yisrael. So the term b'nei Yisrael is mentioned 5 times b'mikra zeh in this scriptural verse. So let's take a look at it. So 1 is over here, 2 is over here, 3 is over here, 4 is over here, and 5 is over here. So as Rashi points out, the term Bnei Israel is mentioned 5 times in a single verse, which is certainly remarkable. Okay. B'mikrazu, lehodia, to declare, chibatam, how much God adores them, how much God loves the children of Israel. Shenichpalu azgaratahem b'mikra echad, because the number of times they are mentioned in this scriptural verse. Echad keminyan, okay, in one verse, keminyan chamisha chumushay Torah. They're mentioned 5 times. The number 5 we know is significant. There are 5 books in the Torah. V'chach ra'iti bebereshit Rabbah. Yeah, that actually would be bebereshit Rabbah, so, unless it's a misprint. He says, and Rashi says, and I came across this when I was reading Bereshit Rabbah.
That's what it says here.
Okay, so it's in Bereshit Rabbah, even though it may be referring here to.
Well, then it says, note
Yeah.
that this is not found in Bereshit Rabbah, but in Leviticus Rabbah 2:4.
Okay, so it is a misprint. Thank you for that emendation. Thank you. V'lo yeh b'vnei Israel negev, so that there is no plague amongst the children of Israel. Shelo yitztarchu lageshet el hakodesh, because they will have no need to draw near to the sacred area. She'im yigshu, because if they do draw there, negev. It's negev. It's just pushed together. Because if they do that, there will be a plague. So it gives us a deeper understanding of something that is sacred. Again, God isn't this big sugar daddy in the sky. That there are proper ways to behave when one is entering into a sacred space. And because you're getting close to God, this is an interesting dynamic, that in order to draw close to the holy, in order to draw close to the divine creator, you have to look into yourself and your own behavior and your own practices, and to try to make them the way your creator would want them. So you don't just barge in. That's sort of what it would be. You have to be very, very, very respectful. So they're taking that concept and pushing it as far as they can push it. And of course, we're just scratching the surface here, just becoming aware of that. Vayas Moshe v'Aharon, and Moses and Aaron performed, they did, v'chol adat b'nei Israel, and the entire congregation of Israel, the children of Israel, la Leviim, to the Levites. K'chol asher tziva Hashem et Moshe la Leviim, just as according to all that the Hashem had commanded Moses regarding the Levites. Kain asu lahem b'nei Israel. So the children of Israel performed. That is a Rashi on that. Vayas Moshe v'Aaron b'chol adat, etc. Moshe, there we go. This is interesting, right? This, you'll see. This is going to support my theory. Moshe he'emidan. So Moses caused them. In other words, he probably set them up. He commanded them to stand formally that the Levites should stand up. The Aharon and Aaron, Hanifam, he was the one who sort of oversaw the wave offering. It says, of course, Aaron waved them, right? The Yisrael samchu et yedehem. There we go. And the Israelites, I believe, samchu et yedehem. They supported their hands. So you can visualize the scene now.
It
Yeah.
says, here it says the Israelites rested their hands on them. So the way you said it, it sounded like they were supporting the Levites' hands, but it sounds like here that they're putting their hands on the Levites.
While you know that I generally defer to the translations that you have, I am going to push back now. And the reason I'm pushing back is because of this little word here, et. Because it indicates a direct object. So in other words, the Hebrew is indicating that the Israelites supported someone else's hand, an object. Because if it wanted to say the Israelites supported their own hands, it would have said the Yisrael samchu yedehem. The et would be left out. So I'm going to argue that that is a mistranslation. That what they have, it makes a lot more sense anyway. And personally, of course, I'm delighted that this is totally supporting what I had told you before. But that is significant because that means that they supported a direct object and not their own hands. It makes it very clear that it's a direct object. So I would say that, because as I said, if it would have been very clear that the Israelites placed their hands on the Levites' hands if it had said, because the Yedehem, their hands, would have referred back to the Israelites if it weren't for the fact that we have et here, this word et, right? The Israel, samchu Yedehem means, and the Israelites supported their hands. You don't need the et.
Their hands meaning the Levites' hands.
Correct, that's the direct object.
Okay.
The direct object is the Levites.
Because, well, how come if it's just like resting their hands on the Levites aren't still a direct object because they're putting their hands on them?
Correct. I mean, I suppose it's questionable. The point, though, is that if it didn't have the word et, it would be absolute mean that the Israelites supported their own hands, right? We'd have to say the there referred back to the Israelites. But this means it wasn't there. It wasn't the Israelites' hands. It was someone else's hands. That's how et functions. It's untranslatable, but
right. But I don't understand. There would be direct object either way, the way I'm looking at it, and it says they rested their hands on them.
Right. Right.
So either way, I think there's a direct object. But I understand what you're saying,
Well,
and I really appreciate whenever you do push back because it gives you more things to think about.
right. So yeah, I'm thinking of direct object as meaning not themselves. It's not reflective. It's reflexive. You're right.
It's not themselves.
I'm not arguing with
Yeah.
you, actually, Lauren. I'm really not. I recognize that even if it was the Israelites' own hands, that grammatically, from an English perspective, would be considered a direct object. I just think that the Hebrew syntax here supports the idea that it was the Levites' hands. And not only that, it makes a lot more sense in terms of presenting a wave offering.
But what I'm saying is the direct object is the Levites, not the Israelites.
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure
Yes.
what you're saying is a difference in terms of if they rest their hands on the direct object, the Levites, and to help wave them, or they rest,
Okay. So the direct object that I'm referring to is their hands. So in other words, their hands, does it mean the Israelites' hands? That's their hands, of course. Or does their hands actually being referred back to the Israelites, to the Levites?
I think I get it now because the et is before Yedehem.
Correct.
So it has to be referring to hands.
Right.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah. Okay, good. Good. All right. I mean, that's an important grammatical issue. I know we were getting, very picky, but that little word can totally change the meaning of something, right? All right. Let's go a little bit more. Vayitchatu haleviim, and they. I'm trying to think whether or not. Yeah. So it means, and the Levites purified themselves. They washed themselves. Vayichabtzu bigdehem, and they washed their clothes. So I'm saying that the Levites, that it isn't the Israelites who did this, because this is a reflexive form of the verb. So in other words, it's saying that the Levites did something to themselves. Like lehitlabesh means to get dressed.
Mhm.
Okay. Leovesh means to wear. Lahalbish means to clothe someone. So that's the forms of the verb. So the Levites cleansed themselves and they washed their clothing. Vayanef Aharon Otam, and Aaron presented them as a wave offering lifnei Hashem, before Hashem. Vachaper alehem Aharon letaharam, and Aaron made atonement over them in order to purify them. So again, this is referring now to preparation, right? That before the Levites could formally enter service, they had to be prepared. They had to, just like Aaron and his sons also went through some sacrifices that were essentially sacrifices of like an olah and a chatat that we had referred to, so that there was a purification going on. And just a little bit more about that is, the fact that that's possible is even a wonderful thought, because I think of so many people, as I've said this many times, that we all make bad mistakes at some point in our lives, or perhaps I should say most of us make mistakes. Some are worse than others. There's no doubt about that. There's a level of degree. Somebody who commits a murder is not the same as someone who steals or other kinds of things that would be considered abhorrent or inappropriate from a Jewish, from a Torah perspective. But the fact that one is able to find a way to atone and to cleanse oneself and move forward and not have to drag the guilt of this kind of stuff on your back. And I think there are many people, I'll go out on a limb, that have the memory of something they did that was improper and have a very hard time getting rid of it. And it's generally, of course, something they're very ashamed of. And because of their humiliation and shame regarding it, they don't want to speak about it. They in some cases, I'm sure, they totally, they in their minds, they have forgotten it. They don't even, they couldn't even tell you what it was anymore because they feel so bad about it. But here we are being told that's, working towards to atone for what you did, to regret it, allows you this. You always have this opportunity. That there are different ways in which atonement is to be made. It's not one-stop shop, but nevertheless, it is a beautiful midrash that says that before God created the world, He created atonement. He created tshuva. He made that possible because the world would not stand without the possibility of tshuva. And that's probably a good place for us to stop. Looking to see,
It's 10, so it needs to be.
That's right. So let me put this in here.
Ooh,
What's that?
it's getting chilly.
Oh, okay.
Going down to 50-ish.
Sorry, I'm going to have to see if I can change that. There we go.
I wish you could change this weather.
I need to change this too. Is this going to happen? Yep. It's nice when things work.
Only we're going to be on a new Parsha.
Yes, so that's why I want to put this in here. This is it. It's right in here. I think we were going to put the date in, weren't we? I think we've been doing that.
No.
What's that?
Today's the 28th.
Thank you.
You might as well turn off the recording.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thanks those who